Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. The show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am super excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 109. If you are watching the video, you can see that I am wearing a cute little hat, a spring shirt, my big glasses. I just decided to dress in a way that really reflects my internal personality outwards. It's definitely something that I'm working more on right now, is finding clothes and just things that really represent who I am from the inside on the outside, because it's just making me super happy. So that is my encouragement to you guys as well, is to find things and wear things and do things that make you happy. Like, why do we try so hard to wear and do all the things to fit in and to make people happy? If you feel confident and you feel good and you feel positive and in your body and beautiful, let this be your sign to just hone in on that and see how it feels. But nonetheless, you guys, I am super duper excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 109. If you missed last week's episode, the last episode was all about speaking your truth, how to speak your truth, and the power of that. That is one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world, because I know exactly what it's like to struggle with that. I know what it's like to have a really hard time speaking your truth out of fear of getting yelled at, out of fear of people not liking you, out of fear of making somebody upset. So if that is you and that resonates, I definitely encourage you to go check out that episode. But for today, you guys, 109, I'm super excited because last week on Friday, it is Sunday today, and it is a beautiful day. But on Friday, I gave 2 speeches to 2 different grade 8 classes at a local school here. And what I shared with them is really the power of bringing awareness to the things that you tell yourself. And my speech consisted of me kind of going through my story, sharing where I've come from, how I've navigated through that, but really how our words play a vital role in our life and the things that we tell ourselves. And I'm reading a book right now, I think I mentioned it in a couple episodes, called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. And it shares a lot about the fundamental neuroscience, DNA building, like really deep, genetically evidence-based proof of how much negative thoughts wire our brain, but also how we have the power to change that. But it shares a lot about how negative thinking pours into all other areas of our life. Think about it. When we have a negative thought, what does it do? It often leads into another one, and then into another one, and then into another one, until eventually it feels like our whole day is just clouded with a bunch of negativity, and then we carry that around with us in the world. And I know that this can kind of ebb and flow. I know that this does for me particular. There's certain days that I'm just a positive potato, is what I've been calling myself lately. And then there's other days where I feel like I'm just the most negative person. And the thing is it's never outwards. I never really project my negativity onto other people, but it's within. And kind of like I told these students, it's like, that's almost worse, because when we're continuously projecting negativity inwards, we're hurting ourselves. And who are we stuck with 100% of the time, from the time that we're born till the time that we die? We are stuck with ourselves. And I don't really want to say the word stuck, but we are with ourselves, and only us. That is a given at all times. And so my goal of today is for you guys to do the same thing that I encourage these students to do. It's to begin to bring awareness to your thoughts. Because although we can't change our thoughts overnight, we can't change them in a month. Sometimes we can't even change them in a year. But awareness holds power. And the more that we even recognize that we're doing this, the more we can do something about it. Because every time that we can catch ourselves in a negative spiral, we can catch ourselves in a negative thought, we're doing just that. We're noticing. Ever think of a time that you've noticed something and your awareness goes to it, right? If I say right now, think about an elephant, your mind thinks of an elephant, right? Once we think a negative thought, it often leads to another one. We're focusing on it. But you guys, we can change that. We can change the narrative of that. And within my story that I shared with these students, I shared how from such a young age, as young as I can remember, I shared with them from the age of 10 to 13 is really where it started. But honestly, it was probably before that. I just nitpicked everything about myself. I nitpicked my intelligence. I nitpicked my physical appearance. I nitpicked my capabilities, my talents, my identity, my worth, my everything. I felt like I wasn't worthy. I felt stupid. I felt less than. I felt behind. I felt all these things. And that began to shape my world. And as I shared with the students, that actually held me back in a lot of ways, because when we're telling ourselves negative things, guess what happens? We start to believe it. If we believe that we are not this, that, or the other thing, we will not take action. This happened a lot with me in my story that I shared about sports. I didn't have the belief in myself that I was good enough to eventually get good. So what I did is I tried almost every sport and I quit a couple sessions or practices in. I didn't have enough belief or worth in myself to stick with something long enough. The one thing I did, however, stick with long enough was basketball. And I think that's just because I found it really, really fun. There was definitely years where I was not good, but I stuck with it. That was like the one thing. And I think that that was supposed to be the one thing that I was supposed to keep coming back to. Because honestly, in a lot of ways, basketball led me to being a podcaster. Because basketball led me to playing in university, which led me to studying social work, which led me to a lot of jobs that led me to want to share my message of mental health. So in a lot of ways, that one thing did lead here. However, again, my message of today is not about basketball or about me or about podcasting, but it's about what belief or thought or narrative do you keep telling yourself over and over again in your head that is stopping you from taking that next step. We don't realize it, but toxicity is one of the biggest killers of humanity. That leaks into our health on such a bigger platform than we can ever realize. There's a stat in this book saying around 90% of chronic illness comes down to negativity and thoughts we tell ourselves. How often do we see, even in the pandemic, when we're isolated and we're not around community and we're not feeling good, we become more sick. We become weaker. Our brain needs that. What we think becomes our reality. Again, that elephant example, when you think of it, you can't not think of it. But the thing is our brain doesn't actually understand negativity, and it doesn't understand the difference between what we tell it and what is actually happening, which is a really powerful concept that took me a while to really sit with, to fully grasp and actually believe it. But how true is it? We can tell ourselves all of these things, but they're only true if we let them be true. They're only true if we give them the power to be true. And one super powerful thing I wanted to share with you guys that I read in this book was, for every negative thought you have, try to tell yourself 3 positive ones. And I did this yesterday when I was driving around. I noticed that sometimes negative thoughts just come into our head, right? Again, 80% of our thoughts are negative. If you think about it, that's crazy. And 90% of them are thoughts we had yesterday. And so sometimes these negative thoughts come into our mind and we're like, whoa, where did that come from? The other day I had the most horrendous thought and I was like, oh, interesting. Where did that come from? I don't actually believe that. Our brain likes to just throw it in sometimes. But once you become hyper aware of your thoughts, you're kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Scoot over to the passenger seat. I want to drive. I want to be the driver of this. And so for every negative thought you have, how can you replace it with 3 positive things? And I know what you might be thinking, how do you do that? What do you mean? I like to use this simple practice, simple tool, and I taught this to the students and they seem to really like it. And I've mentioned it before, but I really want to hone in on the importance of this. Every time you can catch yourself having a negative thought, every time you can catch it, because they're going to happen. Sometimes it's just going to happen and it's going to roll on and you're going to go to the next thing, you're going to go about your day, and that's okay. But anytime you consciously notice, I am having a negative thought right now, I want you to notice what it's telling you. I want you to notice why it's coming up. Because oftentimes for me, this will come up if I'm giving a presentation. I'll have thoughts come up of nobody cares what you have to say. But then I have to halt and stop myself of saying, I wouldn't have been invited here if nobody cared. What if I even can help one person? Nobody's actually told me that. Right there's 3 thoughts that counter that one negative thing. And I think that the things that we tell ourselves that are negative are going to be different for all of us, depending what our things are. But I just see so much with my clients, with friends, with family, just with observing people, how much we allow negative thoughts to hold us back when it's like, they're not even real. They don't even actually exist. It's just stories we begin to tell ourselves. So that's the first step, is to notice that it's happening in real time. What is it trying to tell me? Is it trying to protect me? Is it trying to talk me out of something because I'm actually just scared? What is it trying to communicate with me? Where does this come from? How long have I believed this? How long have I told myself this? Really start to question it. When we start to question it, it gives it less power. From there, once you've caught it, I want you to try to change it. So that's like that. For every 1, you're going to do 3. Try to change it. And like I told these students, it can be really hard to just go from saying I'm stupid to I am so intelligent. Because our brain's like, ew, no, I don't believe that. We're not going there. We're not ready for that. And so this is going to be a unique journey for all of us. But one thing that I like to do is something I've shared with you guys before, is called bridge statements, saying it's possible I'm not as stupid as I think I am. It's possible this thought is not accurate. It's possible I'm prettier than I think I am. The saying it's possible takes like the full power of the negative thought and turns it down a little bit. It gives us the opportunity to sit with it without feeling completely disgust. Because I remember people used to tell me, you're so beautiful. And I'd be like, whoa, I don't know how to take that. And I get super awkward, right? How many of us do that? I'm sure your hand's in the air right now. We've all done that before. Because it can be really weird for us to just jump to that opposite narrative if we've never been there, if we've never had a relationship with that. And then the last thing, catch it, change it. The last one is to release it. Let it go. The whole goal of my podcast, rewiring our brain, I want you to know that that takes time. I want you to know that that is a never-ending journey, because we will never eliminate negative thoughts fully. We just won't, because our brain does it on purpose. Again, as I shared with the students, I want you to think back thousands of years ago, when our job as a species was merely to survive, which it still is to this day. It's just that we have more resources now. However, our brains really have not changed at all from then to now. And back then, our brain was designed to keep us safe from predators, keep us safe from the environment, keep us safe from each other. And so because it's been wired that way, guess what? Our brain's constantly on alert. It's constantly looking for the worst case. But instead of looking at it from that lens of worst case, think of it of, oh, my brain's trying to keep me safe. It's looking out for me. It's noticing these things about the things around me and the people around me because it could potentially be a threat. But once we begin to look at our brain and our body from that perspective, we can almost say thank you. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for getting me to where I am. Everything you've done has gotten me to where I am. How can I find a little compassion for that? My goal on this earth, I truly do feel, is to shed light and leave a global impact on our relationship with our mind. Because I know what it's like to be completely on the other side of that, to want to just smash my brain and make it stop, make the negativity stop, make all the thoughts stop. I definitely feel like I'm someone whose brain does not turn off. It is constantly thinking, constantly evaluating, constantly scanning. And all of us do this, but I think for a long time I thought we were all the same, but I'm realizing that that's not true. And so if this doesn't fully resonate, the one thing I want you to get out of this episode is that the things that you tell yourself matter. They matter so much. They matter really more than anything else in life. Because if our thoughts are not healthy and our thoughts are not well, we will not be well. Our life will not be well. Because we can numb ourselves through, shopping and drugs and alcohol and sex and all these things, and we can really try to numb that out. But they're always going to exist. And they're always going to come back, and they're going to come back stronger the less we tend to them. And so my goal today was really just to jump on and share from my heart, because sharing with those students really opened my eyes of, wow, you guys are in grade 8 and you're completely understanding and resonating with everything that I'm saying. So this shows that from such a young age, we've already built that negative bias. But if we can shed light on knowing that, again, our brain has that negative bias for a reason. It's existing for a reason, but we have the ability to change that. Another tip that I found helpful was to start to associate a word or an action with a thought, or a thing with a thought. So I'm sure you guys have heard before, or maybe you haven't, but about, you're driving and you get to a red light. Every time you get to a red light, you stop and you tell yourself something you're grateful for. Anytime we can make a correlation between something and something, a thought and a thing, if that makes sense. I sound like Dr. Seuss right now. Our brain starts to wire itself to associate those two together. I gave the example to the class of, I want everybody to think of chocolate chip cookies. And I want you to tell me what you think of. One of them said Chips Ahoy. One of them said the cafeteria. One of them said, I think my mom. There was like 3 different answers. And I'm like, see how one word of something we all understand, we all know exactly what it is, it provokes a different thought and feeling within us. So how can you begin to associate maybe your space? Every time you walk into your bedroom, you tell yourself something kind. Every time you get to a red light, you say something you're grateful for, right? We do this all the time when we're about to eat our food and we give thanks, right? When we're about to eat, we're grateful. Not all of us do that, but that's something that, we like to do growing up, and something that I still do unconsciously in my mind. Before I eat, in my head, I'm like, I'm so thankful for this. It's super quick, but it's an association. Our brain likes to associate things together because it likes to try to put the pieces together for us so we're not left in danger. So I hope you listening can begin to even bring awareness to what you're thinking right now. Maybe you're like, oh shoot, I have a lot of work to do. Maybe you're like, oh, I already know all this. Maybe you're like, oh, what can I start to do? Whatever it is, even if you're an expert at this, bring awareness to it right now. What is it that's going on up there? What are you telling yourself? Are you already thinking about what you're going to go do next in the day? Are you thinking about work tomorrow? Are you thinking about the fact that you're hungry right now? Are you thinking, how are you right now? Whatever it is, you're likely thinking something. Bring awareness to it. When I think of the word mindfulness, that's really what I think of. I think of just noticing. I think we overcomplicate meditation and mindfulness and all those things, but to me, it's really just becoming aware, noticing, scanning, seeing what's happening. I realized recently how much I think my window of tolerance has become very, very small. And I'm spending a lot of time in hyper and hypoarousal. And if you're like, Jessie, what are you talking about? I have quite a few episodes on the window of tolerance. It is one of my favorite subjects in the whole world. And basically being in our window of tolerance basically means that we are in our rest and digest. We are in our calm state. We are in our body. We are not triggered. We are not overwhelmed. We are not in our survival mechanisms. We are just at peace. And I've recognized that I think my window of tolerance is actually a lot smaller than I thought, meaning my mind's been taking over more than I thought. So the more that we can just come back and notice, that is one of the most powerful ways that we can start to turn that parasympathetic nervous system back online. We can start to check in with ourselves and build that relationship again. And the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is that we have the power at any time to intervene. We have the power at any time to change our life, to change the trajectory, to change our thoughts. I think we often think that our past has to equal our future. We think that our identity and who we are is who we are forever. But only you get to decide that. You can become a whole new person in 180 your life if you want to do that. But you have to be willing to make that decision for yourself. And it starts with your thoughts. I promise you, they are leaking into everything into your life. If it is negative, distorted, unrealistic, false, hurtful, that is likely why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. But if it is kind, if it is gentle, if it is approachable, if it is open-minded, your reality is going to look a lot different. But know that negative thoughts serve their place because they allow us to contemplate things, which is a good thing, in the right place at the right time with the right dosage. So know that although we can never fully get rid of them, that's a good thing. Again, they serve a purpose. But how can we work on gathering a little bit more kinder thoughts, more positive thoughts, more encouraging, helpful thoughts? So you guys, thank you all so much as always for tuning into today's episode. If you're looking to book a free 30-minute call to chat more about this, if you're like, I want to know more, I want to know more about, my thoughts and just bring awareness to it. If you're looking for a coach that can help you with your mindset, with rewiring your brain and helping you elevate your life, I truly encourage you to book that free 30-minute call and we can just see what happens. So all the love, you guys. Thank you so much as always. I look forward to chatting with you all on Thursday. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at Jessie Brown 13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.